Imagine a universe where everything is backward, where space contracts instead of expands, where the atmosphere itself feels like it's trying to crush you, and where the silence is so loud it screams. We often talk about villains who want to rule the world or destroy it for a dark purpose. But what about a villain who destroys galaxies simply because he is terrified? Today we're opening the portal to the negative zone to look at Marvel's ultimate survivor. He is the living death that walks, the architect of the Annihilation wave, and the reason Richard Rider wakes up screaming. Today, we're talking about Annihilus. Welcome back to Marvel Echoes Resonance. I'm your host, Will, and if you joined us for episode 42, you know we talked about Richard Rider, Nova, and the trauma that forged him into the cosmic general. Well, today we're looking at the cause of that trauma. We're talking about Annihilus. Now, usually we think of cosmic Marvel, we think of Thanos and his shiny glove, and Galactus, the big purple guy with the big hat. But Annihilus, he's different. He's primal. If Thanos is a philosophical nihilist, Annihilus is a cornered animal with a nuclear weapon. To understand him, we have to go back to his origin, which, like all good Marvel stories, is a tragedy wrapped in a sci-fi horror. Annihilus wasn't born a king. He started out as a spore. Literally, a mutated insectoid spore on a volcanic rock called Arthros, in Sector 17A of the Negative Zone. Let me set the scene here. The Negative Zone isn't just space. Think of it as an upside down from the Strangest Thing, but on a galactic scale made of antimatter. It's hostile, it's dying, and millions of years ago, a ship from a species called the Tyanans crashed there. These guys were bioengineers, basically the Johnny Appleseed of the antimatter universe, trying to seed life on barren worlds. When they crashed, they released their life spores as a final desperate act to leave something behind. One of those spores evolved into a weak insectoid scavenger. That was Annihilus. For years, he was the bottom of the food chain, scurrying around volcanic rocks, terrified of being eaten. But then, he stumbled upon the wreckage of the Tyanan ship. This is the spark. He found a helmet. A learning device intended to teach Tyanan children. He put it on and bam! In a split second, a primitive insect mind was flooded with millions of years of advanced bioengineering data. It's like hooking up a caveman to the Matrix. He gained the knowledge of a god, but he still had the instincts of a frightened bug. He used that knowledge to create his signature tool, the Cosmic Control Rod. Now, in the comics and cartoons, this looks like a little golden cylinder he wears on his throat. You might think, oh, it's just his blaster, but no, it's his life support. The rapid evolution that made him smart was also killing him. His cellular structure was incredibly unstable. The Cosmic Control Rod manipulates cosmic energy to slow his aging process and bind his cellular structure together. He doesn't wear it to look cool, he wears it because if he takes it off, his body begins to rapidly degrade. This is critical to understand his psychology. Annihilus suffers from extreme thanatophobia, the psychological fear of death. He calls himself the living death that walks because he is projecting his own fear onto everyone else. He decided that since other living things might threaten his life support, the only logical safety measure is to kill it. Kill everything. It's extreme, but it's the logic of a survivor. When he first met the Fantastic Four in annual number 6 way back in 1968, he didn't attack them because he hated humans. He attacked them because they entered his room, and he assumed they were there to steal his cosmic control rod. For decades, he was just the monster of the week for the Fantastic Four. He'd try to invade Earth, Reed Richards would outsmart him, Ben Grimm would clobber him back through the portal, but then came 2006. We talked about this with Nova, but we have to look at it from the other side now. In the Annihilation event, Annihilus came to a terrifying conclusion. The positive universe, the one that the superheroes live in, was encroaching on his territory. He saw the expansion of our universe as a direct threat to his sovereignty. So he didn't just invade. He launched the Annihilation wave. This wasn't an army, it was a swarm. Imagine the bug swarms from Starship Troopers like we mentioned in the previous episode, but flying armadas of battleships the size of cities. He wiped out the Kiln. He obliterated Xandar. He destroyed the Nova Corps in a single afternoon. And here's where we went from Spider-Man villain to cosmic car. He captured Galactus. Yes, the world devourer. Annihilus strapped Galactus into a giant machine to turn him into a cosmic bomb. His plan was to use the power to wipe out all of his opposition, securing his rule forever. That is the scale of his fear. He would rather destroy reality itself than risk the possibility of someone hurting him. So, the Annihilation War ended, thanks to Nova ripping, Annihilus inside out, which we covered back in episode 42, but you can't keep a good bug down. He's a cockroach. This is where the story gets really weird and fascinating with modern comics. See, Annihilus has a failsafe. If his body is destroyed, the queens of the negative zone birth a clone larva that retains his memories. So shortly after the war, we get Kid Annihilus. And this leads us directly into the Jonathan Hickman's legendary run on the Fantastic Four. If you didn't read it, Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, was trapped inside the negative zone and forced to fight as a gladiator. He actually managed to capture Kid Annihilus. For a while, the roles were completely reversed. Johnny had the tyrant of the negative zone on a literal leash, forcing him to open portals and command the waves. It was humiliating for Annihilus, stripping away that aura of invincibility and showing us that without his adult form and his rod, he's just a petulant child. But as things go on, he eventually grows up. He regained his size, his armor, and his rod, and went right back to business. But the echo of the Annihilation wave kept changing how he was written. Writers started using him not just as a conqueror, but as a force of nature, specifically the force of entropy. This really came to a head in Annihilation Scourge, the event in 2019. This time, the negative zone was the victim, a reality called the Cancerverse, which is a gross flesh dimension where death doesn't exist and life grows like a tumor. They invaded the negative zone, thanks to the Sentry. Now, think about that. Annihilus loves silence and emptiness. The Cancerverse is chaotic, undying noise. He was terrified. He was so scared that he actually reached out to Nova, his arch nemesis, the guy who killed him, and asked for help. It was a wild moment. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Annihilus fought alongside the heroes to stop the Cancerverse, proving that he really is a necessary evil. He represents the natural order of death and entropy, which sounds bad, but you need it to stop the universe from becoming a giant tumor. Now, fast forward to the current era, we have to be a little bit careful here because modern comic timelines often refer to it as From the Ashes, which is in 2025 where we are today, and it's still unfolding. So consider subject to change. But currently, Annihilus has retreated back to Arthros. He's more dangerous than ever because he's gone quiet. He's currently rebuilding the wave, not necessarily to invade, but to fortify. He's become the ultimate isolationist again, hoarding resources and waiting. He remains in the shadows, in the closet. The thing that makes the Guardians of the Galaxy check their sensors twice before they jump to light speed. So looking at the full scope of his history, from a scarred spore on a rock to a galaxy-ending warlord, I'll leave you with this question. Is Annihilus actually evil? He commits genocide, and well, that's bad. But his motivation is pure biological survival. He is a prey animal that found a gun. So is he a villain, or is he just the most terrifying example of natural selection the universe has ever seen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for listening to this episode of Marvel Echoes Resonance. I hope you enjoyed this look into the negative zone and gave you an appreciation for why Annihilus is more than just a bug with a laser. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you subscribe and follow so you don't miss any of the future episodes. Leaving a like and a review really helps the podcast grow and reach more fans just like you. Also, drop a comment on who do you like to see next. Working our way through the continuity index, and feedback really steers the ship. And for more content, including full articles, reading guides, infographics, and everything we discussed today, be sure to check out the link to our website below. Till next time, true believers, make mine Marvel.